Hang in
Dude,
there, it is.
that's Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
It is officially Walker Cup week, and as such, I'm happy to warmly welcome you to The Smylie Show. I'm Charlie Hume. At time of you listening or watching this, I'm out on the West Coast, hopefully bopping around Cypress Point. He's Smylie Kaufman, and we have a special Walker Cup related treat for you today. We have one of the Walker Cuppers on the United States of America side, Michael La Sasso, on the show. Michael is a senior at Ole Miss. He is the 2025 NCAA Division I individual national champion. Played 4 tour events this past summer in addition to the U.S. Open at Oakmont, and debuted at number 3 in the first class of 2026 PGA Tour U rankings. Smylie, we've recorded this conversation already, and I'll tell you what, man, I was bummed to just be a fly on the wall for this because I loved every moment of this. You guys were ribbing me and teasing me behind the scenes on all the Carolina football stuff, but I just thought Michael was a really great hang and a guy that I can't wait to see play this week at Cypress Point.
It definitely was fun to talk to a player who's had so much success at the college level this year at Ole Miss, and talking about his transfer from NC State, how he ended up at Ole Miss, I thought was a fun part of the conversation. And then just to see what he's been able to accomplish at Ole Miss, how he's done it, the degree in which he's worked, I think was fascinating, hearing some of the drills that they do at Ole Miss and how it's kind of taken his game to the next level. But definitely have seen just some incredible play from him, even on the PGA Tour this summer a little bit. And I think a player that potentially could be one of the stars for this United States Walker Cup team. And just trying to get him to read a book, really, before he got out there. But I don't think he's going to do it.
You were selling that book hard. I mean, at the very least, an audiobook. The Match is a fantastic book.
I mean, come on, this book is so good.
I'm gonna pack it for the plane. I've read it a couple times, but although who am I kidding? Like, I'm flying 5.5 hours with my 2 children who are almost 3 and almost 1. There's no chance I'm reading a page of a book.
No, you can definitely throw on the not AirBuds. What are they called?
AirPods, but I can't even
AirPods.
do that because we figured out that I have the janky versions. I don't even have the noise canceling versions.
Okay, well, it still works.
I guess it still works. Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll listen to it on audiobook. Here's what I'm really intrigued to find out is Cypress Point is pants year round. So I don't know if we're going to see the 4 or 5 inch inseams that he's accustomed to wearing out there.
Yeah, that's the only awkward part of the interview, is trying to ask a grown man about his shorts and the length of them. So that was the only dismount I wish I could have back. So y'all laugh with me when we get there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's iconic for that reason. It's kind of like, you
so
got
do you how much thigh do you like to show? I just cut off the rails.
It's tough to tiptoe around that one. But man, it was a fun conversation. A really cool way to get to know a rising star in the game of golf, and a guy who's going to hopefully pop up on a lot of PGA Tour leaderboards in the future. So let's get right to it, Smylie. Here is Smylie alongside Michael La Sasso previewing the Walker Cup.
Go Tigers. Go Tigers. All right, guys, welcome back. We got an awesome guest here today on the Smylie Show, the NCAA individual champion. We're talking Michael La Sasso from Ole Miss. Michael, you're from North Carolina, went to NC State, transferred to Ole Miss. Where exactly do your allegiances fall when Saturday comes? Was it a quick and easy transition to being an Ole Miss Rebel, or we still have a little bit of NC State Wolfpack in our blood?
No, I'm a diehard Ole Miss fan right now.
Oh, he's there. He's all the way there. Didn't take long, huh?
No, I bought into the culture here pretty good. Ever since I've been down here, I absolutely love it. ACC compared to SEC, the tailgating's a little different. The football games atmospheres are a little bit more rowdy. And yeah, I've absolutely fell in love with it since I've been here. So,
gosh, that's amazing. Well, what part of North Carolina are you from, Michael?
I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, cool. So growing up, junior golf, just talk quickly about your development, because of course you're an incredible player now, but was it always that way in junior golf? Were you always a player who excelled at the highest level?
No. I was kind of more of a late blossomer for sure. So I really started to get into golf like my 7th grade year, actually. I remember I chose baseball over golf. They're both spring sports in North Carolina. So I actually chose baseball over golf in 6th grade. Finally decided to choose golf over baseball 7th grade, started playing a bunch. Actually got introduced by a couple guys. There was this game on the weekends at this golf course called Wildwood Green.
Okay.
A lot of good guys actually played out of there. Carter Jenkins, who's a UNC guy. Ryan Gerard was actually out there for a little bit. Zach Siebold was another big one. And so I actually played under them a little bit. That's kind of how I first got into golf, and just like loved picking their brains. You know, I was kind of the kid that went out there right after school and was probably walking holes until dark. And that's kind of how I really started to get into it. And then from there, kind of never really played the AJGA stuff until my junior year. There was always, they actually just discontinued the tournament, but there was a tournament always out at 12 Oaks, which is probably 25 minutes away from where I lived. And it was kind of a cheat code. Like for some reason, there was a lot of points, but there normally wasn't a ton of like really good kids that played. So you could kind of like finesse the system. If you finished well, you could get a lot of points. So I never won an AJGA, but I think I came in second like 5 or 6 times. But I came in second there twice. And then that got me into the Invitational that summer. And then my junior year that summer, and the first one was at Stream Song.
That's right.
For the team TaylorMade.
Yeah.
And then kind of was just like a big top 30 guy. Like never could really crack the top 10, but I would never come outside of like 35th. And then kind of like into my senior year, that's when I started to play like better for sure. And I think I actually racked up like a few top 5s in invitationals. And then from there kind of transitioned into college.
Man, it's funny because there's like a couple guys, you know, I'm like an avid TikTok watcher. I've been trying to have somebody take my phone and delete TikTok for about 5 years now because I frankly need to delete it because I just enjoy watching it about every evening. And there's probably like 3 or 4 players that have just randomly popped up, younger golfers. And this kind of goes all the way back even to like when Minwoo Lee was like getting rolling in the whole YouTube TikTok thing. And I'm like, okay, I recognize that Minwoo guy, and all of a sudden he's, you know, playing on the PGA Tour. Another player like Brad Dahlke was another guy that was popping up. And I would probably say you're the last of this bunch. Michael La Sasso was definitely a player that always was popping up on what's your coach's TikTok or like what's it called?
Your golf game, Chase Duncan.
All right, so I love the way Chase Duncan teaches the golf swing. I just think it's the way he gets the club. You know, guys get the club vertical and shallow, and all of his guys seem to smash it. All of them seem to hit fades. And one day you pop up there, and I'm like, okay, this guy's got a great golf swing. It's super unique, but this guy's Quadzilla. This guy's got some just monster quads. Shout out to whoever your weightlifting coach is, because my goodness, baseball could have, like, that was definitely an avenue for you. I could definitely tell just from an athleticism standpoint. But do a lot of people say that, like, hey man, I recognize you from just like social media stuff?
Definitely back in junior golf days, and maybe a little bit when I went to NC State, and then more recently it's kind of been solidified by more of like play instead of like kind of like having that venue from Chase. But actually I think kind of the early exposure to that was very beneficial. You know, I kind of had a whirlwind of a summer, and for me, like, I feel like you always kind of get those comments like on Instagram, people like always love to just kind of chirp. And so for me, like, I've kind of been used to, like, I'm able to block it out a little bit. You know, it's a little different.
Exposed early to it.
Exactly. It's a little different when you get in person, you get the crowds that are starting to get rowdy in the afternoon. Like, then they start chirping. Like, it's definitely a different environment than online. But from like the online scene, like kind of the early exposure, you know, I always kind of used to get made fun of because he would post some heinous stuff back in the day, which, you know, it's funny because we sit there and laugh about it now.
Alabama, Florida State, years Georgia opened with Clemson, and then Oregon and LSU and Les Miles opened with Oregon and smacked them around. Alabama knocked around USC and Wisconsin and Va-Tech for years. The SEC fears nobody.
Stop it. I love the SEC. Put them on. By the way, if you just had an only SEC college football playoff show, it would be absolutely wonderful. How about that out there, SEC backers?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
So the Mets, they went through a rough stretch where they were terrible, but, you know, they win the series versus the Mariners. They're kind of turning things around just a little bit. Like, the offense has been there. You said they were in a playoff race. You know, it's tough to say, like, oh, they need to win. It's like trying to trust teams in different sports at the end of the season. But the hitters are hitting right now. Lean into the Mets, lean into the Phillies. These teams have something to play for, and they're cooking right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think what you saw last year is it's tough to say, oh, it's projectable, but I do think it's something that when you're taking shots here, you're looking for a bye week coverage wide receiver on your roster or a guy that has upside who's young enough to grow into more of a role. I think the development of Bo Nix was stunningly good last year. If we can build on that again this year, I think Marvin Mims is a really good selection as the 57th wide receiver off the board.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
What does he do after he hits the home run? He walks over to the fan and he pats him on the back and gives him a high five. This is the same fan that's been going after him for the entire game. Dave Roberts after the game saying, hey, look, every once in a while, it's kind of funny to see Shohei, who's got this wonderful personality that we almost never see. It was great to see him do that with the fans.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Every time he used to post me, like, every time my video would just go nuclear.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of just funny. Every time he would post, like, for some reason, it got, like, a good target audience. And
right here, you're looking at him. I'm in the audience. I'm in the algorithm. It's been fed to me many times. The really good golf swing, the butter fades, and also the short shorts seem to be a thing. How long have these shorts been thighs out? Or I guess sun's out. No, it's not sun's out, thighs out. What is it? It's when the sky's out, thighs out. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. Oh, I think I've heard that one before, but
Charlie might have to help me out with that one. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a funny story. So I got into weightlifting pretty heavily in high school. So my friend group in high school, I wasn't really friends with a bunch of kids actually at my high school, but I was friends with the guys that either just graduated college and were playing like mini tour stuff, or they were guys that were kind of like about to phase into professional golf. So I was always kind of rolling with an older crowd, and most of the guys that I worked out with were like big into golf stuff. But they also just like liked working out. Like, it was a good like process and routine to get into. And like, I just absolutely got hooked on it.
All right, what about Max's? Help us out here.
Oh,
right, so
gosh.
We've had Jake Knapp on, and so currently, if you can beat his peaks or his maxes, then you would move up our leaderboard for max squats.
I don't think I'm gonna touch him, because I did a lot of volume back in the day.
Okay,
it wasn't really a ton of maxes, but I actually started to get pretty strong last winter at Ole Miss. I kind of went right back down the rabbit hole, because I started to realize like I would shed weight like pretty easily in the summertime. So I try and build it up come off season. And sometimes the weather can get nasty in Oxford, Mississippi. Sure. So you don't really want to go outside much. And so last winter I actually turned into a meathead pretty hard, and was just trying to gain like a ton of weight, started taking like supplements for it. That were all NCAA regulated.
Some creatine. You just got to watch out. We got two players ODing on creatine on the first tee.
I know. Yeah, I saw that actually, and I was kind of surprised. I was like, man, I swear I've taken a lot before, but I haven't got that reaction. But yeah, like I was doing like pink Himalayan salt, creatine. Like I pretty much was like just blowing up, because my water retention was so high from like just pretty much just trying to absorb all that water, so I could therefore like lift stronger weights, just because like the more you weigh, and in theory, like the more you'll be able to move. And so I got into it pretty hard. I would probably bet a lot of money that Jake Knapp's got a good bit of strength on me. But visually, I mean, he's I don't know. I saw him actually this I have to go off air. But I don't know. I saw him in the locker room at 3 a.m. and I was like, holy this guy's jacked.
Yeah.
And then he had a hell of a week that week too, which I kind of thought was hilarious.
Yes.
But yeah, I saw him there on Tuesday and I was like, holy this guy is massive.
Guy used to be a bouncer, man. He would have been a great bouncer at Oxford, Mississippi. At what's y'all's main bar there called? I can't remember. I've been to it.
A big one's Library. Another big one is Funky's. The owner of that's huge into golf, and so we always play with them. Nicest guy ever. So
Perfect.
It's a good setup.
Wait, so how did you end up at Ole Miss, and how many years were you at NC State?
So I was at NC State for a year. So I actually, on a little backtrack to NC State, I committed there, I think it was like my 9th grade or 10th grade summer. But when I was committed at the time, not many people knew this, Caleb Surratt was also committed there to play golf. And so at the time we had a few good recruits. Like we had a kid from Austria who just actually won, Max Steinlichner.
Okay.
He's played well over in the European circuit. And then we had a kid who finished inside the top 25 last year on PGA Tour U, Nick Matthews, who played at NC State. Good kid, All-American. And then Caleb Surratt and I were supposed to come in and go to school together. And so like he was a big part of like one of the reasons why I committed there. And then he ended up leaving, went to Tennessee, and then went to Live, which was kind of like, he's kind of been bouncing around a ton ever since like junior golf days.
Yeah.
So I ended up sticking it out, went there for a year. And it was fine. Like the actual experience, I learned a lot. Like it was like, I do have to quote, like there was a good bit of maturity that I got from NC State. Just kind of being a freshman on campus, like you learn a lot, it's like, your actual decency of like life has to be like improved. Like your mom's not going to do your laundry. You have to learn like, all right.
Sure. There's a lot of growing up that first year.
Yeah. You don't want a pile of clothes in your bedroom. And so like kind of learned a lot, just kind of like maturity, and kind of was able to learn that. And then after my freshman year, I think we had 4 kids that were like our top 5 either graduated or just kind of like ran out of eligibility from like their COVID years. And so it would have been like a pretty big rebuilding year the next year. And so I was like, why don't I go get like a new fresh scene, try somewhere else. And so I was good friends with, we had 3 guys that were in the sophomore class at Ole Miss at the time. So it was Tom Fisher, Cameron Tankersley, and Patton Samuels. Yep. So I was best friends with a bunch of them in junior golf, just kind of like through playing that Dustin Johnson and a few of those invitationals for AJGA. But I did not know the head coach at all. So that was kind of like the only like trigger that I had. And so I went into the portal, and they were like, hey, listen, like we'll fly you out pretty much immediately. And I was like, all right, like this is perfect. So I went down for a visit. First thing, no students were on campus, mind you. This was summertime. So there was no student body. And I went down there and, I kind of met the coach. They had Cameron and I think Tom Fisher both showed up on campus just to kind of show me around. And I remember I went back into our hotel room, and I told my dad, I was like, I think I could move down here tomorrow and be perfectly happy. Like, I was like, there's something about Oxford. I was like, this is great. The head coach was great. And at the time, the assistant coach was Austin Cody.
Austin Cody. He was my age, by the way. Austin Cody, incredible junior golfer, good college player, but like he was unbeatable in junior golf.
Yeah, he always kind of used to mention that actually a little bit. Like he
unbeatable.
Kind of always, yeah, I heard he was very, very good. Went to Duke, right?
Yep.
And so I pretty much got recruited by him. And then after 2 days after committing, we got on like this big Zoom call with everybody on the team. And he said he was taking the job at Vanderbilt. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this, like that could be brutal, because I kind of like Cody.
Pumped,
everybody said good things about him. And then we had this like new guy, brand new into coaching, coming from Washington. I kind of had no clue what to expect.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
Devon Acham, catfishers are really tricky. I'm not saying he's going to be on the pup list or anything like that, but it is something to monitor. And he is a small running back, and I think chasing last season is just a problem. I can't take him over Derrick Henry at the end of the first round. I think it's crazy. And Ollie Gordon's a player we talked about. Here's the preseason stats for Ollie Gordon, Matt. 26 attempts, 126 rushing yards, 4.8 yards per carry, and a touchdown.
Fantasy only on SportsGrid.
Shohei Ohtani was minus 20,000, I believe, Tom, when we were talking last week. He's down to a minus 4,000, which I still think is fun. I don't know who say, now's the time to bet the minus 4,000 here and win some money. Schwarber's a 12-1 price, Machado 10-1, Soto 200-1. It's still going to be Ohtani's award here. They're not playing great baseball for the Dodgers, but I do find it funny. Like, what is the difference between minus 20,000 and minus 4,000? Who knows? Who's got that much money to play anyway?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Arch Manning is a 7-1 price to win it. You take a look at Cade Klubnik here for Clemson. He's a 9-1 price. Nussmeier. Then we see Jeremiah Smith. He ain't a quarterback, Joe. He's a wide receiver. Love those wide receivers.
Yeah, Ryan Williams is another one from Alabama.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams will battle it out for best wide receiver, potentially leading their teams to a college football playoff.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
He came in, he caddied for me at the USAM at Cherry Hills.
Yep.
We ended up making it to match play, and I absolutely fell in love with everything that he taught me. And then ever since, we've hit the ground running, and he's been we always joke around. I call him my lifeline a good bit.
What's his name?
Emerson Newsom.
Okay, so I was covering the USAM, and that's the first time I've seen your name in a while. It popped up because I was the analyst that week in the booth, and I saw La Sasso popped up. I was like, I know the guy from TikTok. Yeah, there he is. He's playing good this week. I can't remember. I feel like you won maybe a match or two. Is that right?
No, funny story. I lost to Jacob Moletsky in the round of 64. And I was five up after 9 holes. I ended up losing.
I do remember you being up. That's what's triggering in my head here.
yeah. I lost on the 18th hole. He made a bomb.
Dang.
To end up clawed it back.
Cherry Hills was great.
Fun. Yeah,
that was awesome.
That was probably my favorite USAM venue that we've done. I thought that was the most fair out of all the ones that we've played so far.
It was a great final with Shipley and Nick Dunlap. So that was definitely a really good one. Also, a lot of the players just played really well, the top guys. So we had an awesome week, and Cherry Hills obviously amazing. But
yeah,
I want to go back to heading into the senior year because you talked about the lifting and putting that strength on. And when I've seen your golf swing, I definitely could tell you hit it a long ways. I'm not sure what your ball speed and club head speed, how far you fly it, but I know it's far. It just looks like it has to be. But talking to one of your teammates who I've known his family for a long time, played at LSU, transferred over to Ole Miss, talking about Cohen Trolio, who had a very nice year this past year at Ole Miss. And he was telling me, he's like, I don't know the specific stat, but he thinks it's right around this. He said last year, inside of 10 feet, which I didn't know you guys in college had in-depth stats. We didn't really have that when we were in school. But he said inside of 10 feet, you were batting around 85%. Is that always been a strength of yours? Have you worked on it specifically to be somebody who's very good at rolling the rock?
Yeah, so I was always a pretty good putter inside of 10 feet. I didn't really make much outside of 20 feet. And it was kind of funny, so my assistant coach does a lot of short game work. So he has a few guys that he works with that are on Korn Ferry. And so all these guys, you go see, they go work with Joe Mayo or Derek. This summer, I was kind of introduced to all of the short game coaches that are out there every week for these guys. And I was like, holy cow, like I've got my assistant coach at school that I'll call him out from his office, like for maybe 20 minutes every Monday and Friday to come like make sure my like stuff's not getting out of whack. But I've kind of used Emerson as like my short game coach over the last probably 2 years since I've been at Ole Miss. And I work a lot with him on putting, and like kind of the junior year, and I actually had it rolling pretty good at the end of sophomore year. Like I started to make a lot more putts outside of 10 feet, but I always was a pretty solid putter inside of 10 feet. And then kind of like being around him, like my speed control kind of got better. I didn't 3-putt nearly as much. And so I kind of just like tightened it up a good bit. And I think like just kind of having the exposure of having a guy that actually is knowledgeable in what he does and is like really ready to help you like learn about it a good bit, because he dives pretty big into stats, which I was never really exposed to in junior golf or at NC State. And so like he made us start entering every round of qualifying we had in a decade, every event we had, like stroke play event we had in a decade. So every round. So we kind of he has a good idea of what each guy's really good at and then what guys struggle with. And so you can see like if you're actually starting to trend a good bit like during the season, or like if your weaknesses are still kind of like struggling. And so I know there's some kids on our team like get overly obsessed with them and like they really start like riding them out. But to me, like it's kind of just like a friendly reminder, like, okay, if I'm improving, let's see if it actually gets better in competition,
right?
Or if like I still need to work on it.
So what about the short game area that you guys have? Or maybe it's called a short course that you guys go out and practice on. I've been told by Cohen that either Chris or maybe Emerson, they set up drills, or maybe not drills, but challenges or competitive challenges for you guys. Is it like pass fail type of stuff that you're doing out there? Or are you competing against one another? What exactly is it?
Yeah, it's pretty cutthroat. So we have a short course, so it's 10 greens. And a few of them are replicas of greens from like big golf courses. So we have one from Shoal.
That's my home course.
Yeah. So we have one from Shoal Creek.
What do you know? What hole?
I think it's like 13. I think they always said 13. So we have that.
What's it look like? Or is it
there's a ridge, so it's kind of like this, like almost like L.
Yeah.
And there's a bunker short right, and then there's a fall off back left.
Yeah, that's the old. Yeah.
NFL's heaviest player in history cut by Tampa. His name was Desmond Watson. Did you see any like the highlights? His highlights were walking up and down the field as opposed to doing gassers, and that's how he was supposed to lose weight, Joe. How about that?
They really tried to get the guy. I mean, they really did. They put a lot of energy and effort trying to get this guy underweight and athletic enough to make a difference, but he just couldn't do it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
That number last year was a loser, comfortably. Jeremiah Smith in the regular season had 934 receiving yards, 10 regular season touchdowns. He had a phenomenal, and I mean a phenomenal, college football playoff, despite only having one catch for 3 yards against Texas. That is how good he was in those other 3 games.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Netflix is back in a big way. They get Home Run Derby. What else is in store?
Yeah, Craig, we told you they had a great shot at it, and if they do. Now, the deal's not done yet because there's some last-minute things. However, if the deal is done, Netflix gets Home Run Derby, Peacock and NBC get Sunday Night Baseball, and they also get the Sunday afternoon package that Peacock originally had 3 years ago, and Roku's had the last 2 years.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Basically, their whole entire year is going to come down to the Ohio State game. I would be surprised if they were to lose any game leading up to that. So them to go undefeated is 12-1 in the regular season. That's a regular season play. So I think that's possible to go 12-0 at 12-1. To win the Big Ten championship, I think is a 9-1 play is a good number to take, because if they're in the game, we can hedge off of it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
And we have a replica of 16 at Augusta, the par 3. So that's like the one that's furthest from our putting and chipping green.
Amazing.
And then Aaron Hills maybe is another one. I could not tell you what hole that green is from. But
so what exactly is the stuff? Is it just
and so normally when we go out there, so we have kind of two forms of practice. So we have one is called a ladder, and then the second one is called like a stuffs game. So the stuffs game is every guy has 3 balls, and so they'll set up like this routing of a par 3, but you never putt. So it's like wedge control. So it's anywhere from 60 to 140 yards, and you hit 3 balls. You're on a team. Last year we had 9 guys, so we did 3 teams of 3. And so you would do, each guy would hit 3 balls, but they would take a different time hitting. And if you got your wedge shot within the flag stick, like that was deemed 1 point. And then always like the third ball is what the money ball is called. So if you get it inside the flag stick, then you get 3 points. But then every time you miss a green with a wedge, it's minus a point. So like, and if you miss a money ball, it's minus 3 points. So like, then you're kind of like learning, like, do I be a little bit more conservative and not take a -3, or do you still try and get aggressive and get, and try and get as many points? So that's one that we do, when we go to a golf course, that's a little easier. And it's a lot more wedges. Like we'll practice, that'll be one form of practice for us that we do a bunch of. And then the other one, which is probably what Cohen's talking about, is called a ladder. And so we have 10 greens, and it's normally on each green, there's an up and down, and then there's like a lag putt. And so to move on to the next shot, you have to complete it. So if it's an up and down, you have to get the ball up and down, and then you move to the lag putt, and you have to 2-putt. And if you 3-putt, then you go back to the shot before.
Oh,
and
wow.
So it kind of, and sometimes like our coaches will make it so it's like, it's pretty brutal. But like the hard part about it is like each green for us is spaced out. Like there's a few greens that's probably like a 130-yard walk from one green to the other. And so if you've got like a 6-footer and you got to either get it up and down, or like you hit a putt like 6 feet by and you've got to make the 6-footer. If you miss it, you got to walk 130 yards back.
But you don't want to do it.
But you don't want to do it by any means. And then for us, like the way that it gets competitive, there's a pretty good pizza joint, probably like 5 minutes from the golf course. And so normally the top 2 to 3 finishers from each practice get like a free pizza.
Oh,
and so,
wow.
like,
That's enough for me to get motivated.
Exactly. So everybody, and we have like a big whiteboard that kind of has like, not stats from out like the semester, but like if you finish top 5 in an event, you get a point. If you finish top 10, you get a point. If you win, you get a point. If you have like a GPA above 3.2 for like each grade lead checkup, you get a point. If you have like shots gained putting during a round of qualifying or during an event, you get a point. So there's a bunch of like little points. And at the end of the semester, you get to pick out 2 things from the Nike website and the coaches will buy it. So like if you get a win at practice, you get a point. And so there's a lot of like little incentives where it gets like very competitive, and you definitely don't want to lose. If it's free pizza or like a free piece of
well,
like
what have
Nike
you bought?
gear.
What have you gotten from the site? I'm assuming that you've got to the top of the standings here.
Yeah, so actually, funny enough, I got a pair of weightlifting shoes, like pretty legit ones from the website.
Guy's legit, man. Guy, I mean, it's a personality now. Now these are things that you're ordering.
That was funny. We do it off of like the Nike Game Day, which is like what the school uses, so the selection's pretty limited.
Gotcha.
But like I think I got that. I got a decent amount of pair of shoes from that website. That's kind of like what I go to. Because
is Lane Kiffin a big golfer out? Do you ever see him out there?
We do. I play a bunch. Actually, we've got a linebacker that loves golf. He actually played football at UNC and then transferred to Ole Miss. And so I always see him when like in athlete dining. And so I always bust his chops about like his handicap and stuff like that. And his name's Diego Pounds. I'm sure Charlie probably has heard of him.
It's just not surprising. It's not surprising to see the best players from North Carolina transfer somewhere else. That's actually not surprising.
I'm waiting for his mic to turn back on. There we go. I knew it.
That was sorry. I've been giving him way too hard of a time about the Tar Heels heading into this season, and it's a shame. I feel bad how hard I've been on them, but I think this whole North Carolina joining the SEC talk is definitely taking it out of me a little bit too much.
Yeah. And so I actually played a lot with the baseball guys down here. Like there's a couple pitchers that love playing golf.
Yeah.
And so like if we got kind of like a lighter week and you want to just go play like a casual round of golf without like trying to get like overly too competitive, like I'll go play with them. And normally it's like pretty laid back and you just get to go play good golf.
And this is what Cohen was great at LSU. He made friends with the baseball team. It sounds like he's probably made friends with the baseball team in Ole Miss, and you guys are just repping the baseball caps. Hey, come out here. I'll give you some Pro Vs, and you give us some good Ole Miss baseball hats. Is that kind of the even trade?
Cohen loves that fitted hat. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of him, but he looks fun, and we love him. We love him for that.
He also told me that you're possibly the best 3-wood player in tournament history, but he said that outside of tournament golf, you've turned into like a 4 handicap with the 3-wood. Can you explain why it's so good in tournament play, and then outside you're like, what do I do? How do I hit this club?
I don't know. Like I think that's like also one of my strengths is kind of going for par 5s and 2. And so sometimes like when we're at home, like I try and get a little too creative with the shot. So that's kind of when it starts to go a little haywire. But in tournament, like you're kind of focusing on like, what's the number you're trying to hit? Where are you trying to miss it if you're going for a par 5? And so I like in tournament, like you're a little bit more zoned in and like you have like a little bit more of an idea of like where you're trying to hit it.
Sure.
And so in tournament, like I will say, like I do hit that 3-wood pretty damn good.
What do you carry that 3-wood?
Oh, so I play it pretty hot. That's kind of like by design. And so like when I tag a good one, it's probably flying 285, 290, with probably like 74 ball speed.
Sure.
So that's kind of like if there's ever a time where
you need to turn it right to left, can you move it that way?
Oh yeah, I can. That's the one. Like normally I'm pretty left to right. And so if there's ever a T-ball where it's like, you kind of got like a tight starting line down the left, like that one's like an easy go-to, grab it from the bag and go play that one.
All right. So this whole season, looking at your results, obviously trending heading into the national championship, you had an incredible season. Just talk about that week. And then of course, winning the individual title, of course, coming up just short with the team title, which I know would have been incredible to have both, but how much has your life changed from that week for you? And of course, achieving, what everybody wants to do when they get into college golf, which is to win the national champion as an individual.
Yeah, it's so that week was crazy. I can't even like start to even go on like what was happening. I had so much adrenaline running through me, probably even like that second and third night where like it was one of those things where like you didn't really sleep much. But then you knew like as soon as you got to the golf course, like as soon as you got into a good rhythm, you could just kind of groove it out. So it was kind of just trying not to think about it as much as possible. You're kind of just sitting there trying to enjoy it with the friends, because that was the first time I've ever made it to nationals as a team. We missed it by a shot the year before, and then we missed at regionals at NC State. So that was my first time even going to the national championship. So you kind of knew what to expect, but not really. Like for us, like the golf course is like brand new. Nobody's ever really seen it before. And, that's the first time, like, you really got a camera crew on you for college golf. So, like, you got the camera crew running around behind you, trying to film. So kind of like was the first time. And it was one of those things where it just felt, it was pretty comfortable. You got the team there, everybody's rooting for you. And it was one of those things where I knew we were close to getting into match play. Like I had our assistant coach walking with us and I knew we were close, but I didn't know how close it really was. And so I wasn't really as focused on the individual title as it was of like, all right, let's try and get the team into match play. And then I started to know like with 4 holes to play, like I was in the lead.
First time on a casino floor and feeling a little overwhelmed? Well, here's a tip. Lots of machines have a free demo mode you can try for practice. So give those slots a spin in practice mode before you start putting down some real cash. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smylie Show, only on SportsGrid.
Good news, bad news, but it's the same problem when they created this problem come draft day, right? We all knew you got too many quarterbacks. It's as simple as that. Unless one guy absolutely stinks, then you still have too many quarterbacks, because you still got Deshaun Watson, who's eligible to come off the IR this season if they really want to go down that road again.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
It was kind of one of those things where it's like you got so much riding, like, you know, you don't want to mess up the individual and you don't want to mess up like the team, but you know, when you're right there in the moment and the fire, like I wasn't really nervous at all, you know, like you're so like, I don't know, you're just so in the moment that like it kind of just like your muscle memory kind of takes over and you just play. And so for me, like that's kind of what happened. And then we didn't even really have time to celebrate. You know, we had match play like the next morning.
Yeah. How do you reset? How do you even reset after that? How did you sleep? How do you get ready for the next day? How many texts did you have?
Oh, I can't even tell you. I thought my phone was going to blow up on that shuttle going back to the golf course. But
anybody text you that was just like out of the blue that you're like, whoa, this person just texted me?
Yeah, I had a bunch of people that I didn't think were going to text me that I did, which is pretty cool to see.
Anybody of note?
I mean, I had like a couple just like not random people, but it was just kind of funny. Like Jackson Dart, our quarterback, you know, I know I remember he texted me. Like another random one was Danny Duncan, which was like kind of like just one of the more like random things that I've seen before. Like I wasn't really like aware that he played golf, but he said he was starting to get into it. So, you know, I kind of thought that was pretty funny. Besides that, like it was just like a lot of people from my hometown. Like that was like the big thing.
That's a lot.
I had a bunch of that. And then, yeah, I remember we literally got takeout Italian from this restaurant we got like a few nights ago. And I mean, I think I maybe had 4 bites of my meal and like I couldn't even eat. Because I remember we had Arizona State the next morning, and it was like we were like the first group out as well, and so we were like first off because I think we were the 8th seed, so we were like first off, had to go play, and I remember I literally I don't even think I ate breakfast that morning either. Like it was one of those things where I just had so much adrenaline pumping. Like I had my phone turned off, and I'm pretty sure I laid in bed tossing and turning for like an hour, just like I was like, holy. Like what just happened, which that was pretty cool. Yeah, actually it was kind of a funny story. So we played that morning against Arizona State. I played really good that morning. Just kind of like it was pretty easy. And I like golf just felt really easy that morning. Blitzed it. We had like this huge wave of events with, we had our kid on our team, Tom Fisher. I don't know if you saw any of the highlights.
Maybe.
But it was electric. Like he was playing
Was he the one that like chipped in with from 40 yards or something?
The kid
right?
chipped in. Michael chipped in from 40 yards, and Tom had like a 20-footer to keep the season alive.
That's
he
right.
He made it, and then he turns around and stares at him, and it was
that's awesome.
It was probably the funniest thing. Everybody was laughing so hard. And so then we were at that point we were emotionally drained, and then we had to go out and play right in the afternoon against Oklahoma State. Then I got paired against Stout, and I remember, literally, I think it was on the 6th hole, I started taking smelling salts to just try and wake myself back up, because I'm pretty much rolling on 0 hours of sleep. We just had the longest Elite 8. I think we had a couple kids going to extra holes. Didn't know if we were gonna squeaked it out. Went and played Oklahoma State, and by that time I was exhausted, and I just got Preston Stout absolutely waxed me, it wasn't even close, which was pretty funny.
All right, guys,
but yeah,
you got it. Y'all go get him.
Yeah, pretty much. I was just trying to cheerlead at that point, and it was close too. We had 2 matches square on 16. And ended up losing both of them. We had 2 points on the board.
Yeah, it was close. I remember watching it that evening. And it just had to be just an incredible week before being the individual champion. And always fun, too, making match play. I had the opportunity to play in match play at Prairie Dunes. I think it was one of the first time they did the match play deal, at least on TV. And we lost in the semis. And I remember just being wiped in that afternoon, similar deal.
Oh, yeah. It's that I feel is the longest day of golf.
Yeah.
You're done playing 4 rounds of stroke play, and then you go play 36 holes. And you're just emotionally wiped, physically wiped, and then you're just where do we even go from here?
Hey, tell me this. So does the Walker Cup, if you win the NCAA individual title, is that an automatic bid to getting into the Walker Cup, or did you get into the Walker Cup based off of just general resume merit, all that?
I don't think it is. It was more of at that time I was an auto bid, because I think I was 3rd in the world at that point when they did that first automatic qualifiers. So I don't think that was an auto. But I kind of figured I did that practice squad over the winter time, the winter before, and kind of was talking with him through that, and then had a pretty good spring. I won twice, was able kind of just to get some good points my way, and then kind of ended up getting that automatic bid, which is pretty nice.
All right. So how do you try to not look ahead when you think about competing on a Walker Cup team? Every amateur wants to make that team, just like all these pros right now are trying to make this Ryder Cup, especially where it's being played. Dude, Cypress Point, Walker Cup at home. In September, the weather's gonna be perfect. You're gonna be walking literally on clouds. It's gonna be incredible. How pumped are you?
Yeah. So my first time out on property was 3 days before the USAM started. So we went out there early, and it was myself, the captain, Nathan, and then Ben James. And so it was us 3, and then Reese Mosley, who's helps run the player development for USGA. And we went out there and played twice, and it was probably one of the craziest experiences of golf I've ever had. That place, our assistant coach always talked about it as literally it felt like a religious experience for him, when he first went out there. And I've been fortunate enough to play a lot of very good golf courses. As my time being a golfer, especially in college, you kind of get some doors unlocked that you would never get. And Cypress Point, it was unbelievable. And so the first day we actually went out there, and I birdied 15 and 16, back to back, and had no clue that was that's a big deal. And our caddy lost his mind. And he was like, yeah, you're a part of the 2-2 club. And I was I have literally no clue what that was. But that was pretty funny. And then Ben James actually the next day did the same thing.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. And so when we went into the clubhouse, they were only 25 people have ever done it. He's it's a very small crowd. He's you get your name engraved on the, or there's a thing for the members in the locker room where when the members do it, they get their name engraved in it. But I know when we're going back out in September, they said they were giving us ball markers and a cool little thing to remember it.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There's no way you're going to have a team with 63 wins and two other teams with 55 and probably another two that are between 49 and 52. So there's got to be some pullback a little bit, right? Under 62 and a half wins for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
And maybe even like an envelope or something they hand you, and it's like, hey, you made a 2 at 15 and 16. Here's your membership for Cypress Point. That would even be better, right? Like, how about just throw us that little bone on the way out? You and Ben James becoming a member at Cypress for making a couple twos.
Yeah. No, that experience, like just going out there being the first time, like 15, 16, birdieing them both, and then like kind of just like the weather we had out there was perfect. Like the first day,
so good.
It was cloudy, like absolutely nothing. The second day we had that marine layer come in, and so you were able to kind of see it, and it was like, I thought the marine layer honestly made it cooler. Like, you know, I think it's always pretty cool when, you know, you start to have the clouds roll in, and it kind of gives like this eerie, like mysterious kind of vibe to the golf course. And I thought it was like unbelievable. So
yeah, it's amazing. And if you haven't, I don't know if you're much of a book reader. I typically am not, but this was one of my favorite books I've ever read. It's called The Match, and it's about a match that was played out at Cypress Point with Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson, Ken Venturi, and gosh, I can't remember the other guy's name, but he was an incredible amateur. But if you played the golf course, it's so fun to read because it takes you hole by hole in this match. And you can actually listen to like on Spotify if like you ever just wanted to listen to it. But it just gets you excited. Like it'll get you excited about playing at this golf course where, you know, some of the greatest players ever play the game have teed it up.
Yeah. I was told about that book through,
You gotta read it before you go. It's just gonna get you more excited.
Perfect.
Or listen to it. I know how I'm not much of a reader. I know the young generation, we gotta consume our content in a little different ways. All right. So as we close this thing up, one of the things I recently just saw is that you have signed with the Bob Dorr Sports guys. So is it Breezy Golf? Is that right?
Yeah,
and the toga. There's a picture of the togas on. You're gonna have to like walk me through. Was this like joining a frat? Like what exactly happened here?
Yeah. So I just went out there. I actually got back this morning, but I went down to Jupiter for we went down there for 2 days, and it was kind of like meet the guys, you know, shoot some content. And so they always do like pretty funny ads that are like always on their Instagram to like promote like their different fall drops and stuff to come out. And so the one that they thought for me was like we're taking your time out of the school year, which school hasn't even started yet for us. But like the idea was, we're taking your time out of the year. So they're going to do like a, let's bring you back to school, like ad campaign. And so they kind of featured it like of Ole Miss. And so I know it's coming out in like probably like a month and a half, but like you'll get a good laugh out of it. Like it's definitely funny. Like it was kind of like an initiation into their like frat,
Oh my
I guess.
gosh.
And like, I mean, I got like a swirly done by one of the guys that's like going on video. It was like, they were absolutely great. Like it was the funniest thing of all time, which like, that's kind of something that I enjoy, kind of growing up being like an athlete in other sports. Like it's kind of nice having a connection to something that's just a little bit different and like hilarious. And those guys, like when I was actually brought that offer, I was like, this is something that, you can't turn down. Which is just funny. So they're hilarious. The whole experience was great.
Oh gosh. I mean, FP joining up in his fraternity, it's hard to turn down that bid, right?
Yeah.
Guy's a legend.
Yeah. And actually we did like a YouTube match too. And I mean, they waxed me. I mean, I think they shot like 9 or 10 under, and they just, for the first time I think I've ever, I've watched a few of their videos, but that was the first time it almost seemed like the lights came on, which is like just kind of brutal. But it was
man.
funny.
Well,
yeah.
Maybe just I feel like momentum gets going with those boys. You got to watch out. They can just definitely start turning the tides a little bit and make it hard on you youngsters. So
yeah,
that was interesting, man. That's awesome. Does old Bob, does he have any hope? His golf game, my guy.
No, it's terrible. Bob. I mean, I'm not going to talk too much because they did end up beating me. But man, Bob looked rough out there that day, and I actually rode in the car with him too. There is no hope. He was telling me too. He's like, I don't even want to tell you the amount of time and amount of money that I've spent on lessons. He's like, some of the golf shots you see that guy hit, and you're just like, there's no way that's real. But
is starting like a YouTube channel something that like you would want to do in your golf career?
I've thought about it. And ever since I actually signed with Johnny O, they have a media guy that's been like pushing me to kind of like start shoving content out. Cause I was actually never the guy to post content. Like Chase Duncan was always the guy to post his TikToks. And it was funny. Like I never posted a video, but had like a pretty decent following. And so the guy at Johnny O is like, all right, like, like let's try and like make this a brand. And so like I started posting and like, kind of started to get into the woodworks a little bit on it. But it's a lot of work. Like it definitely takes up a good amount of time for it to be quality. And like as much as I would love to kind of like start a YouTube, and I think that would be hilarious. Like I think I would need to hire like an editor and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not too gifted when it comes to the whole editing process.